Aston Villa can build from the back, but they can also dominate long balls. They can press you high up the pitch, but they can also play an incredibly compact low block. So when trying to identify what Aston Villa's tactics are, what do we say? Unai Emery has caught everyone's attention this season, and it's hard not to be impressed by Aston Villa's style of play. But to truly understand what's so special about this team, we first need to understand what they do differently. Let's take a look. Welcome back to Football Meta. This video was made with help from Soccerman's X-Value suite of stats and their brand new virtual assistant, Ida, able to quickly generate insight into any player or team's performance. Use code FootballMeta at checkout for 25% off yearly subscriptions. Click the link in the description down below to get started. The first key component we need to understand about Aston Villa is their shape. One of the biggest trends of the past few seasons has undoubtedly been the box midfield. Whether it's Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool or Brighton, it's a structure that's showing up wherever you look. But the way Emery uses this shape serves a completely different purpose compared to the other teams. On paper, Aston Villa's starting lineup is a 4-4-2. However, in reality, it is much more resemblant of a 4-2-2-2, with the two wingers moving more centrally into the half spaces and creating a big overload in the centre of the pitch. In their more recent matches, Youri Tielemans will drop as the right inside forward, leaving Leon Bailey further forward and wide, where Villa will often look to isolate him in a 1v1. We can get a good sense of the wingers being active in this more central position by looking at John McGinn's heat map, mostly in the inside left channel, but being active all over the pitch. By asking Ida for McGinn's seasonal statistics, it highlights his key role in Aston Villa's build-up, completing 43 progressive passes so far this season, with an expected threat of 1.4, ranking him in the top 10% of players in the league. The main idea behind this box midfield is to create overloads in central positions, and to have a number of players on staggered lines, meaning it's much harder for the opposition to close all the players down whilst also keeping to their shape. And they will often need to break their line to cover all of Aston Villa's players. For example, in this clip against Man City, one way they wanted to stop Aston Villa having time on the ball was to man mark during their first phase of build-up. But because of the amount of players dropping deep and being active in their own half, it meant there were big gaps behind the first line of pressure. And by playing a ball directly over the top, if Man City weren't able to win back possession, it would isolate the defenders in a 1v1, and Man City's backline would often be disjointed. As we mentioned earlier, the box midfield is now a staple in the Premier League. The main idea is that this shape allows teams to control the match by having a lot of players in close proximity, meaning they can retain the ball with simple passes. But if they lose the ball, they also have a lot of players ready to close the opposition down. But no two boxes are the same, and they all lead to different results. If we look at Brighton's structure during build-up, it often resembles a 2-4-2-2, with the attacking midfielder and the forward in a more central position, with the wingers hugging the touchline and stretching the backline as much as possible. This means that as the two central players drop to create this box shape, it will break the defensive line, and gaps open up for direct balls in behind the wingers to be in a 1v1. The idea is similar in other top teams as well. Arsenal, for example, will often resemble a 3-2-2-3, with the three defenders, an inverted fullback and the holding midfielder, with the other two more advanced midfielders further forward. This means they have an extra man up top compared to Brighton, but they still have two players as wide as possible and stretching the back line. And a lot of the times, this box in the centre will draw in the pressure to free and direct balls into their dangerous wingers, Saka and Martinelli. As a result, the main objective of these two teams is to progress centrally before moving it out wide into the wingers, and starting the next phase of attack. But now let's take a look at Aston Villa. Their initial structure is similar to Brighton in a 2-4-2-2, but the biggest difference is that the wingers moving centrally and with the two strikers up top, they often end up with no players out wide during build-up, with only the fullbacks occupying the wide areas. On occasion, Bailey will shift out wide if the team is building down that side, but generally speaking, even his instructions seem to be to hover in the inside channel and act as support to Watkins during build-up. The patterns in possession are similar to other box-shaped teams, with precise and lengthy passing sequences moving up the pitch with third-man passes into the free player. But by having this extra line of central support, it means the team has much more depth to their attacks. In fact, when the centre-backs are on the ball, depending on the opposition structure, they have immediate support with the holding midfielders. They have options between the lines with the two wingers, but they even have a direct ball into the forwards. Each of these options can be used depending on the opposition press. If the defensive line sits back, then they have space in midfield. If they push up to cover the centre, then it leaves the defenders isolated in 1v1s. If the whole team sits back, then the holding midfielders can comfortably receive the ball and push forward. A common pressing structure they face is the opposition's fullbacks pushing up against their fullbacks, which leads to big channels that they can play balls into for the strikers to run onto. As a result, central progression is a defining point of this Aston Villa team, and it's reflected in the statistics, developing down the centre more than any other team in the league. So while other teams may look to use this box as a launching pad for their wingers to have more space, Aston Villa are using this box as a way of crowding out the midfield and forcing their way through straight down the centre. Emery doesn't insist on build-up at all costs, and Martinez will very frequently play direct balls into the strikers, as even if they lose the aerial duels, the physical nature of their squad means they often win the second ball, or can hold on to it long enough for the rest of the team to join the attack. And this is why this system is working so well for Emery. Given that the squad lacks a lot of fast-paced wingers, by crowding out the midfield with strong and physical players, it allows them to control the game in a different way compared to other teams. Now, this isn't to say that Aston Villa never move the ball out wide, and when transitioning into their offensive shape, the team does end up with a lot of support on the flanks. The vast majority of attacks are usually created from this narrow cluster of players breaking forward and finding space to shoot from central areas. But after periods of possession, the structure shifts to a pretty common 3-2-5 shape, with the main difference being that the left flank is taken up by the left back Luca Digne, while Leon Bailey will shift out wide on the right flank. The main idea of the structure remains the same even in the final third, and will look to progress centrally as often as possible, often with Watkins dropping off the defensive line and linking up play with the two inverted wingers. A great example of the threat that this structure creates can be seen in their equaliser against Bournemouth. The centre-back plays a dangerous central pass into Watkins, who lays it off into Zaniolo. As the opposition tighten their shape, it leaves Bailey in a 1v1, cutting inside and curling his effort past the keeper. By having this front five, it means they can very quickly pack the box with players, with late runs onto the edge of the box. What's interesting about this structure is that both Digne and Bailey are left-footed, meaning they will look to create chances from crosses on the left flank, however are more reliant on individual plays and cutbacks from the right flank, with Bailey dribbling inside a lot more frequently. Finally, it's also worth noting their defensive shape, as this is also a big reason as to why they've been so good this season, and one thing they do really well is set traps for the opposition. By keeping this narrow shape in the centre, it often immediately forces the opposition out wide, and the fullback is instantly closed down. As a result, given that there are no central options open, this often forces the fullback back to the keeper, which is the trigger for the front two to aggressively close down the keeper and force a rushed pass, where they can often regain possession. What's interesting is that they don't rank high for pressing numbers. Their BDP, for example, which is a number that highlights the amount a team is able to disrupt a team's build-up by lowering their passing accuracy, is 18th in the league, and their passes per defensive action is also outside the top 10. In fact, the vast majority of the time, they will fall back into an extremely compact shape. The key in their low block is the aggressively high defensive line, squeezing the space as much as possible. With the space in behind being difficult to penetrate and the lack of space in the center, if they regain possession, then their positioning means they are in a perfect position to create chances from counters, currently ranking second in the league for XG created from counterattacks. So with all that being said, what's so special about Aston Villa's structure compared to the rest of the teams using it? The beauty of it in my eyes is that it creates a system that is not dependent on any one way of playing. Depending on the type of press that they might be facing, they can choose to build from the back, or if needed, they can also rely on long balls, safe in knowing they have the numbers and the players ready to win the second ball. Defensively speaking, depending on the opposition, they can choose to press them high up the pitch, or if needed, they can sit in an extremely compact low block and create chances from counterattacks. One of the main reasons why I think Brighton look less sharp compared to last season in the Premier League is because teams have slowly figured out their shape. And because they're so dependent on building from the back, if this isn't open to them, then they're struggling to find other routes they can move down. With Aston Villa, as soon as one route is blocked, they seem to always be able to find the alternatives. And this is why I think this Aston Villa team could be a sign of things to come. Regardless of their position come the end of the season, Emery has shown us that adaptability is the way forward. It's no longer enough to be excellent at only one thing, and the best teams of the future will need to master every element of the game. And now let me know, what do you think of this Aston Villa team and where do you think they're going to finish this season? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to know more about what goes on behind the scenes at football clubs, I've recently released a video on my second channel documenting a typical week of training during my season with the Lazio under-19s. As always, if you enjoyed this content then please leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.